Filming in a new location today. Got a putting green, golf simulator. Got to work on the short game a little bit. So today on the show, we have the best looking guest that I've ever had on. It's my wife, Kelsa. I think today would be a good representation of kind of running a business and a family. We're running on pretty much no sleep. We were supposed to film this a couple days ago, and our kid had a fever, so I had to come home from school. Just wanted to have you on, kind of talk about running a business together. I get lots of questions on that. We've ran a few businesses together. Just finished 75 Hard, so we can talk about that a little bit. I think you have kind of a unique perspective on the business, different than mine, obviously. So just for people who don't know, how would you describe like your role in the company and my role in the company?
Well, I think you're definitely the visionary of the company, so you'd have all the big ideas and all of that kind of stuff. But I'd be more of the integrator, putting in the processes and the systems and figuring out how we're going to execute the vision. So I think we work well together in that sense.
Yeah, I think the comment I get the most from people is I could never run a company with my wife. And I don't know if it's obviously worked well for us, but I think it's because of that where we have like a very different skill set.
Well, it's definitely not for everybody. I wouldn't recommend it for everybody. We spend a lot of time together, and I guess we don't really get a lot of breaks from each other, but I think we make it work. And yeah, I just think we make a really good team. So.
Yeah, this would probably be, people probably think we spend all the time together, and this is one of the few hours we probably get away from the kids talking to each other.
Sometimes.
Yeah, so the one thing that we have done just recently, we finished 75 Hard. I know that was kind of a big thing. Obviously, it's 75 days. What was kind of the big takeaways for you with that program?
Well, to be honest, at the start when you first mentioned you wanted to do it, you asked me if I wanted to do it, I was a little hesitant. 75 days is a lot, and running a business, being a mom, being a wife, all of that stuff, I didn't know, like, how am I going to fit this in? But yeah, like the biggest thing was just if you commit to it, you just do it. And there was a lot of growth through those 75 days, just with like confidence and discipline and just like the things that you had to do for the 75 days, I don't think were hard. The hardest part was getting them done every day. There were some pretty early mornings, pretty late nights, and yeah. But
for the people that don't know, what were the things?
Well, you had to take a picture of yourself every day, and you had to work out twice a day. One had to be outside, so those minus 40 days weren't that fun to do it. But and then drink a gallon of water. Some nights I was drinking half a gallon before going to bed, so that was interesting. And what else was there?
Reading 10 pages.
Oh yeah, reading the 10 pages. So that was good because I read probably more books in those 75 days than I have in the past 5 years. And they had to be business books, so it couldn't be like, Harry Potter or whatever. And what was the last thing? There's one more. Oh, diet. Follow a diet. So I chose a paleo diet. We were trying to get away from like processed foods and just eating a lot cleaner. So, and it was good.
Which of the things did you think was the hardest?
Drinking the water, actually. Yeah. I think getting that in seemed to be kind of the hardest. After a few days, like, I really looked forward to the walks outside that we did. Like, we did walk, I guess. But
yeah, everything on their own, I don't think. None of the things on their own is hard at all.
Yeah.
It's just
doing it every day for 75 days, all of it in a day.
Yeah. And a lot of people have reached out and said they want to start. I do think if you're a couple, it helps a lot too. Yeah,
there's definitely like that accountability piece, and it was nice to have somebody to do it with.
Yeah, and I even think just like it would seem kind of selfish to like, or if you came home and then you have to go on a 45-minute walk, and if the other person's not on board with that, or like you're reading when you're taking care of all 3 kids or whatever the thing is, I think it would be tough.
And again, that's where I think we make a good team, and if we're committed to something, we kind of make it work together. So.
Yeah. I think too, when we initially seen it, and like one of the things is the picture every day, and it seems kind of silly to do, but I'm glad you did, because you actually notice like the incremental changes a lot more. with it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I am glad that I did it because, I was at a place where just wasn't feeling great about myself and that confidence thing. So it was a good.
Yeah. How much weight did you lose?
30 pounds.
30 pounds.
Lost 30 pounds. So, but I had the weight to lose because just had a baby. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of people will be, they always say like, oh, we don't have the time or it's just a bad time.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Yeah, you can always use, you don't have time, but you have time for the things that you prioritize. So that was like another big takeaway is like, you just prioritize it and you just get it done. And
yeah. Yeah, and I don't think if we were to ever pick a time, it would be when we had a new baby and 2 kids, and we're obviously taking over a new building. So I do think you find the time. I was really happy with it. I think mentally did more, probably like physically, obviously there were changes, but it's when you can just cross things off the list every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I do think
you do feel accomplished for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So for anyone wanting to do it, Andy Frisella is the one who kind of puts it on. He has a couple podcasts that kind of describe exactly what it does, and again, I think it's even called like a mental program more than it is a physical one. But I think it's really good, and yeah, 75 days went by pretty quick. There's 2 other parts to it, which I plan to do, and for me at least, I think I'll probably do it every year. It was pretty cool.
I think too, like the thing that you said was cool is, when you post about it and you say you've done it, the amount of people that have reached out and is like, oh man, that's so inspiring. Like we want to do it too. So
yeah,
it's nice.
Yeah, that's always nice to hear. And that's the part, like I don't like posting about stuff like that. And it's always kind of a weird thing because when people get like a new car, they'll post about it. But then if you do something like this,
you lose 30 pounds, you feel guilty for posting.
Yeah, you don't want it to seem like you're bragging or whatever. But we definitely had people reach out, so it's cool to see for sure. So starting out with the company, if somebody is brand new to real estate and they're wanting to look at implementing systems, or because when we initially started with the trailer park and everything was done, it was cash and check, and it was all very manual, and it's almost impossible to scale that way. Like it's really can't. But you kind of do run into, I think, where if you have one 4-unit building, you can't probably use the technology we use.
Yeah. So I guess, yeah, if you're getting more properties, I would definitely recommend a management program. We use Building Stack for our program. We played with a couple at the start and nothing really worked for us. There was quite a few out of the States, but Building Stack was kind of new and they were in Canada, and it was kind of nice working with a startup. Like they didn't have all of the things that we wanted, but because we were one of their first clients, they're really good at implementing the things that we want and listening to us, and they really work with us really well. If you're on a smaller property, yeah, spreadsheets and stuff like that work really good too.
What, just for people who don't know though, like what does Building Stack really do?
Well, it keeps track of all your leases, and it has like a balance that you can keep track of people's rents. They can pay rent online. It has a tenant portal, so the communication's really good there. For like maintenance stuff, ticketing, people can always put in their maintenance requests through there, and then our team follows up. And
because did they do marketing now or no?
Yes, yeah, they do marketing, but they also partnered with RentSync. So RentSync has like kind of a monopoly on all the rental listings. So that was like a good thing too, the merger, because we were looking at something more efficient in that area. I think we were kind of lacking there for a little bit, but so that merger was good. What
did Building Stack cost? I have no idea.
I think for like the full stack, we're running on 300 units now. It's $800 a month, but it does help a lot with just efficiency and productivity. And
yeah, so for new people, that's kind of always that balance of like, obviously if you have one property, you can't spend $10,000 a year on a system, but you also, if you know you're going to grow, I think it's important to put it in.
Sooner than later, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, we take over from bigger companies, and some still are using spreadsheets.
Spreadsheets and paper, yeah. And files. It's kind of funny. I was thinking back to when we took over like Lakeland. The trailer park was one thing. We were just getting our feet wet in there. But do you remember going and there was 7 vacant units and all the files in a vacant unit? And that was kind of wild, because now when we take over buildings, like we have a whole process that just streamlines the whole thing. We go in a week before we take over, we look at the leases, we get all the information that we need so that we're properly set up. And then when acquisition day comes, we can onboard the new tenants in building stock, and it's just way more efficient.
Yeah, and I think for new people, like I see a lot of people when we do some of the stuff with, new investors, and they try to take all these courses and books and learning and coaches, and it's like you just have to do it, I think, at some point. And we took over that first property right during the pandemic, and we couldn't get into the units, so they had told us there was, I think, 5% vacancy, and then it was 30%. And that's just stuff you kind of figure out along the way. And yeah, they weren't even there. They gave us, we picked up keys. And then the next building we took over was the same. It was just an old filing cabinet, and like we had to go through and find kind of what there was there. But that's where I always think on the property management side, there's such a huge need for innovation, and like there's so much, for sure for smaller companies, it's very easy to implement stuff quickly. Because when we take over from bigger companies, and now they're getting better, I think, and even the companies we're buying from now are probably a little more sophisticated or have.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too. You get like pushback from the tenants because they are so used to running kind of like an older style management, and then we're coming in with like this new innovative way, and we run lean, and we're a remote management company, so there is a lot of online that the tenants have to use, and you get pushback, but I think in the end, like once they're onboarded and realize the efficiency of the system, then they're appreciative of it. So
yeah, and it doesn't matter how good you are when you take over. Like when we took over our last building, I remember we found like a Reddit forum of people talking about how like we were young and they didn't want us on. And I've already got calls for the new property we're taking over, and this one lady, she's like, well, I'm not comfortable with this, and it's like, well, it's it's part of the business, and usually you can win them over with good service. There's some things older people dig in on, exactly like we use an app for pretty much everything. That's that Building Stack app, and if people are used to paying with a check or
yeah, or like debit machines, but we don't have people sitting at the office, so like we can't use it.
Yeah. And that's just the way the world's going. And I think property management too, unless you have hundreds of units in one location, I don't think it makes sense to have someone sit there. So we've always kind of ran remote management, and I think you have a lot more room for your employees to grow when you're just an on-site manager. You can't really grow out of that position very good.
And there's always ways to make things more efficient too. Like you do have to be more innovative to make it work.
Yeah.
Better.
And it'll be interesting in the next, I think the amount of units you could manage with one or two people going forward with technology, like even some of the stuff they're coming out with the chat bots and that, I think will change a lot. Which that I think we tried and didn't work out good.
Didn't pan out very well, but at least we tried.
Yeah. But I think they're so new too, like I'm sure they'll get that dialed in and you won't be able to tell
That's right.
It's a person. What we did use something else before Building Stack though, didn't we?
Well, I think we tried Buildium. Buildium was the one, and I can't remember why we weren't loving it. I think it was just because it was like an American product.
And they couldn't do the billing or something.
I think, yeah. So we wanted to have that automatic payment or method that people could pay online. So they didn't have that capability, but.
So we used Building Stack, and then what's the other ones we use for like the inspections?
We use the inspector for our inspections. So ideally, Building Stack eventually comes up with their own inspection portal part of their platform. But we use the inspector, so that just really helps the property manager go through and make sure that move in, we have it all recorded, and it's again all on an app. You can just take the pictures. They get sent the report. We download the report into Building Stack. It's very visible for the tenant. And then on the move outs too, then you can create statements of accounts and make sure that you're.
Yeah, and that's all important. Like at the beginning, we didn't probably do any of this, but it's like when you do have all that documented, and then if someone comes back, if there's damage to the unit, and you can show like, hey, here's.
Well, God, our first lease, I think, was like a 1-page document, and then like the renewals, like when we look back at our paperwork, it's like a little embarrassing. But now we have like a 30-page lease. It's a little lengthy, but we've covered all our bases, and yeah, it's just interesting to see like where we started and what we started with to where we are now. Like there has been just a lot of growth and a lot of work put into the company.
Yeah, and a lot of it you learn as you go, and that's what I mean about people trying to learn everything before. You'll never do a course that's going to teach you.
Oh God, we run into new things every single day, like that you have to learn and maneuver around and figure out. And I just don't think that there is, you can't go to university to do this. Like you can't. Yeah, you just kind of learn as you go.
Yeah, I think at the beginning too, you get used to like we were very hands on, so we were actually doing the renovations. We were.
Oh God, we lived at Lakeland. Like we packed the kids up and they were in there with us doing the renos, and we literally went there like 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night some nights. And well, we had 7 units to renovate, and we were just you and me and your mom and Mason. So I mean, yeah, it was fun times.
Yeah, and I'm glad we did. You learn every part of it, and now if we get to bill for something or a quote, you kind of have a rough idea. And maybe that's a negative because that was years ago and we were doing the work ourselves, so we just think everything should be cheaper, but at least you have a rough idea. And then kind of every step you take once you give a bit more to the employees, and then you're stepping away. But I think for us, the next maybe not big challenge will be like going to a new market, where it's that then we're not there, and
then you're really relying on other people to do the things.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. It'll be a different challenge for sure.
Definitely, I have a hard time like letting things go, trusting other people to do it. So yeah.
Well, as an owner though, or owner operator, I think that's everybody I talk to kind of struggles with that. And I don't know when you ever get to that point where it feels like you can let go of stuff, or for you it's definitely a little harder, I think.
Yeah.
For people that are like, I know even at some of the flip tours we've had like couples that come up and they kind of want to do it together. But do you have any like advice for them working with your spouse? I know you have it pretty easy with me, but
some days. Can't say every day is rosy. Advice for couples working together. I mean, it's definitely not for everybody. And you really have to have like respect for each other, and you have to have the same vision and the same goals in mind. Like I even think back to when we started, I think, again, you were very much the visionary and you had all these big dreams and all this stuff, and I was a little bit more reserved at the beginning. So I've definitely grown a lot in that way. So I think like even our working relationship has grown a lot better too, just because I feel like we are more on the same page. We have like the same goals, like we know where we want to go. We're more aligned. So I think there's just like an importance there that if you are going to work together, you have to be aligned, and you have to be transparent with each other, and just have that mutual respect. And
so what do you think changed for you? Because I always think it was probably when we went, that conference and the guy talked about one person foot on the gas, one on the brake.
Yeah, I think that was exactly it. And just, I don't know, just like looking at just following more successful people and realizing that it's not unattainable. Like you can't, if you have the vision to go somewhere and be somebody, you can do it. And I don't know, I think just like having that goal really, really helps too. Like,
yeah, I think and that's what it makes it so much easier today with social media and stuff, is you can follow those people. For me, one thing that changed was the first conference, and you didn't come to, but that I ever went to, and just seeing the people that would get up and talk, and they all had a story. They started off probably worse spot than we did, and they all made it, and they don't seem that much more successful than, or not success. They don't seem that much more like intelligent, or they didn't get anything given to them. And I think that definitely helps. I always tell people, like, going to those things, I know we're going to a conference at the end of May, but just getting around different people. And I'd say for us, probably moving was a big...
Yeah, well, again, yeah, exactly. Getting around different people. Like, we were in Swan River. I mean, how big is that town? There wasn't too many, people to look up to there, I guess. So moving back to Edmonton, and then, creating those new connections with, just bigger, better people, I guess. And that helps for sure. And the conferences, for sure, like 100% help.
Yeah. Yeah, I had someone call me maybe 2 months ago, and they were from Swan. I don't remember ever saying this to him, but I guess when we had moved, I had told him, I was like, you know, kind of the cliche quote of like, you get around 5, 6 people that are millionaires or successful, and he had told me that he drives by our gym all the time with his kids, and he always tells them that like we moved and said that, and he's like, I just gotta know. He said, did it work out for you? Because he's like, I tell my kids this, and I don't know if it's true. So it was kind of cool, because it's like I didn't even remember having that conversation, but I definitely think it's, yeah, the more you get around, and then even, you meet people here, and then, yeah, when you go to some of those other conferences, and you can pay to get in the room with those people, and you just get a different perspective on life. And like, I get that way with real estate, where it's like, you get to one level, and now, we want to get 1,000 more units in the next couple of years, and then you listen to like the S2 Capital guy is 33 and has 42,000 units, and you're like, well, just, that's a whole different world for sure. The one thing I think is probably like misunderstood running a business together is people think you're just together all the time, but it's like, it's, I think, a lot harder to separate work and.
Yeah, at times for sure. And I guess like we're not together all the time. Like you take on a lot of meetings and stuff, so like you're out and about. But definitely like the day-to-day stuff that, yeah, we're always together, working together, discussing like where we want to go, what we want to do. And
so with like, obviously, like you mentioned, we brought our kids to the job with us all the time, and they've been around the business, and I always try to, like, if I'm speaking somewhere, we'll try to bring them to kind of show them. But what would be for you, like, what would you want them to see?
Well, I guess like I would think a lot of what we're doing is for them, like for me anyway. Like I want to make sure that they have a lot of, experiences that we didn't have, or me didn't have growing up. I want them to see that, you can find a partner and work with them and grow together and be successful. I want them to learn the value of hard work, like, foot on the gas kind of thing. Like, and if you have these dreams and your goals, that you can attain them. I do want them to learn about the business. I don't want them to feel like they have to go to university to be successful. Like you didn't. I took a course at NAIT to do process engineering, and not doing that anymore at all. But yeah, I want them to make sure, or I want to make sure that they can like see that.
Well, I always think that we're like, if you imagine you go to your job every day, and then you come home, and like the time that your kids see you after school is like you on your phone, or like sitting on, like they're not actually ever seeing that. So I think it's good if you can kind of like show them, what you're actually doing, and it's something you enjoy. And our kids seem to really like it. I know they.
Well, it's really cute. Like you ask Cash, what do you want to be when you grow up, and he's like, real estate investor, like Dad. So.
Or hockey player. So we're pushing him away from that. But yeah, I think real estate for sure can be like a family thing. Like a lot of people, even when we do some of those invest tours and people come through, they'll try to bring their kids, or people will, like there's so many cool strategies you can do. Like even if you work at a job, you can buy a house, and just your whole goal is just to pay that house off in 18 years, and that's their college fund. And it really can be like a family thing.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like I was thinking, or we were talking about it last night, going to these conferences, like when the kids get older, a little bit older, like I think it would be just really cool to bring them to some of these things. And then you're starting them off at a younger age, getting that mindset. Whereas like myself, I probably didn't have this mindset till I was 30. So if you can get them exposed to all of this stuff earlier, then you're just giving them that much more of a head start as well. So
yeah. Well, I was the same way, like really until I went to the first Growth Con. I had never been in a room with people that level of success. But again, back then the internet was like, the YouTube and everything was just kind of starting, and now I think that it's pretty easy or a lot easier with, you can listen to podcasts, and exactly with that quote of like being around 5 successful people, well, you can have those people be Andy Frisella or Grant Cardone, whoever you want, and you can spend hours with them every day just on podcasts and videos, and kind of get their mindset. And
it's very valuable. I found a lot of good growth and information just through a lot of podcasts that I listen to too. So it's nice that information is there. And you realize too that, not everybody is an expert at what they do. Like they all started off somewhere. and had to learn and grow and get to where they are now. So it's good to know that they all have that time frame where they had to really grind and put in the work to get to where they are.
And for being a woman in business, like who would you look up to, or like?
Layla Hormozi would be like my top one that I listen to probably daily. Her content is just really, really great. And Elena Cardone would be another one. I think she's really great. More for like family and exactly that working relationship with your husband and having that alignment with each other to, she always says, grow an empire. So I think that's kind of like inspiring. And I guess, yeah, Natalie Dawson too. I listen to her lots. She's got like really good business people advice.
Yeah, I think both Layla and Elena, well, Natalie probably too, but it is funny to watch because those relationships, I would say, would be very similar, where like they're the analytical one, and then the other guy's more the marketer. So for me, like, I like listening to all of them, but I wouldn't enjoy it near as much probably as you would. I would like.
Well, I don't think I would enjoy the podcast you listen to
No,
as much
no.
as you do.
I think the one like challenging thing with listening to exactly those three people who you said they're probably the top, or three of the top people that are out there. So they've done this for years and they have these massive companies, and then you're looking at them and thinking, oh, I'm way down here, or like I'm not doing enough. Mm-hmm. How do you kind of deal with that?
Well, I think there's like days, and you do feel like you're never doing enough, but we had kind of read that Andy Frisell had put out that, I think that's just like an entrepreneur mindset. You just never feel like you're doing enough. You never feel like you're going fast enough. So I had asked you, I was like, well, what can I do to help more, to move things along a lot faster? And you're like, oh, get on social media. I've been off social media for like 4 years, so I was kind of against it, but knowing that it is a tool that you can use to get exposure and get more audience and stuff like that, I was like, okay, well, let's try. But then it is challenging because when you do follow the people who have been doing this for, and they've probably been doing it for years, their first posts probably weren't amazing. But then that's hard because then you're always comparing yourself. Well, why can't I have content like that? But I'm just starting out. So, and I think you felt the same way too when you first started out your podcast. So
yeah, I think, and my thought was just like, why would someone listen or want to follow here when you could just look at those people? But then I can't remember who it was that told me, they're like, well, there's someone that wants to know how to go from 0 to 100 units or whatever that level of success, and then they'll go to the next step, right? So or even the people that I would have followed at the beginning have changed going forward.
Well, and I think too, like maybe I have a little bit, it's different than Layla. She doesn't have a family. I mean, she runs her business with Alex, and well, Elena does have kids and stuff, so that's a little bit more relatable. But yeah.
Well, I think, yeah, like we talk about that, how like, and they're pretty open about that too, Alex and Layla, how that's just is their whole life. Mm-hmm. And I do think it's hard when you have kids to balance, like, how much you're working or not. And I see it a lot where like people use it as kind of a justified excuse, where it's like, well, I'm not going to start this business, or I'm not going to, I can't do this, or I can't work out, or I can't do something. And then they'll use the excuse of having their kids and be like, well, I'm going to spend more time with them. Mm-hmm. But I always think long term, if you were to say like, what's in your kid's best interest? Is it that you're healthy and happy and financially secure, or is it that you spent that extra hour with, and that's a balance that everyone has to make that decision themselves.
And yeah, some days it's harder than others. Like some days I feel just wicked guilty that I'm in the office and working, but I mean, it's got to get done. And I think the kids understand. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's an age too, where like, even now, I mean, your kids want to play with you for an hour, like 20 minutes or an hour. But as far as you just sitting there with them for 4 hours, like they like doing their own thing. And I always look at it like long-term balance too. It's like maybe every day isn't balanced. So there's days where you'll work till 10 o'clock at night. But then if you look at it in the balance of 10 years, then you're able to go on the trips and you're able to take a week off when you want to go somewhere. And if you balance life that way, I think it is how I always kind of look at it. It's not necessarily a balance of like every day isn't going to be 9 to 5, but over your lifespan, you're going to get that time back.
It's kind of crazy though, because you think about Cash is 7, he'll be 7. And then I feel like when he gets to that teenager age, mom and dad aren't that cool to hang out with anymore. So you have to think about that too, though, because I don't want to miss out on these little young years. But I think we do balance it pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, they say you're only your kid's favorite person until they're like 13 or something.
Kind of depressing.
Well, and it goes quick. Like I thought of that the other day where, I hope he doesn't have a kid at 18, but I mean, he realistically could, and that's 12 years away. We could be grandparents, so that's scary to think of. If you guys are liking the content, make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss episodes. We try to put them out every 2 weeks. We do Q&A ones every once in a while, so if you have questions, reach out on Instagram. If you DM me, it's going to be me that messages back. Now let's get back to the episode. So the one thing you had mentioned, Natalie and Brandon, we obviously went down, we took their 10X 360 a few years ago, and they talk about the different break points, right? So each business, it's like the first $1 million is just proving out what you can do, right? And you don't have to have all the systems in place. And then the next, I don't know the exact break points for real estate, but it's 3 million. Then it's like you have to hire people, and then you have to put the process in. And I think we've been through a few of those now where it's like initially it was just proving out what we did, and you're doing everything, and you kind of hire, you start hiring people, and it just kind of happened organically. Mason was there from the first buildings, and Matt moved to the city. And I think now we're in that probably the third one where it's like it is the process, right? So it's
so we're very much focused on process right now. That's another system we use. It's called Whale Process Documentation, and it basically is like instead of having all your processes in a binder, you have it online, and it's all organized very nice. And that's really where we're focused on right now. Before we start hiring more people, I really want to get those systems and processes in place that it's really easy to onboard people, and they know exactly what their roles are, what their jobs are, what the expectations are. And I think that'll help a lot with just transition and efficiency.
Yeah. Even even on the investor side, like now we're having an investor portal. So that'll be something that's new, and like I don't think a lot of companies at our scale have that, but and probably even for us, we don't need it today. We have like a fairly small investor base, but you want to have that. And then you have the transparency. And I've talked to guys who've helped, set up bigger funds and just asking like what, I don't want to get to 500 million or $1 billion in assets and then have to go back and redo everything. So I think on the investment side, like excess asset management, we'll put those systems in place. We don't need a lot of human capital for quite a long time on that side. You can scale up pretty quickly without a lot of people. And on the property management side is more where I think we'll be putting more people in. That's where I think you're trying to step out a little bit more of the day-to-day.
Yeah, so up until recently, like doing a lot of the day-to-day in the business kind of tasks and work. I definitely like to start working more on the business. It was kind of interesting too. I don't know how long ago that was, maybe, a year ago, probably a year ago. I think I was like complaining to you that I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to run a business. I don't know how to run people, manage people. And again, you don't know what you don't know. And you're like, oh, let me get this book for you. He literally opened up the shelf and EOS traction fell on his foot. That was the exact book that he was looking for. So I picked it up and read through it, and I just really bought into it. And I think that having systems like that as well, whether it's EOS or I don't know what are some of the other ones.
Made to measure.
And really going through the 10X 360 as well, like Brandon Dawson stuff. It's all the same information. Like a business operating system is just a business operating system, and if you implement it, it just makes it a lot easier. So yeah, we like implemented like weekly meetings and just again more accountability pieces, KPI tracking, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that EOS exactly is a really good one. I know a lot of people that use it, and I think like for me, I would have read the book and never have implemented it on my own. Like I don't like that.
That's not your wheelhouse though. So
yeah.
That's where I come in, and it's good too because they have a huge library. Like they have a process book, they have a how to be a great boss book, and scorecards and stuff like that. So there's a lot of great information and books out there. They just recently came out with a people book. It's sitting on my desk. Next one I'll be reading. So
yeah, I think it's a great system. And for people like with small, like just starting out, I think everyone always feels that way. Like you don't really know.
Mm-hmm. Well, we didn't go to school for this. Nobody taught us how to run a business. We're just figuring it out.
Yeah, and it's kind of just a template for like almost any industry can use it, I think, too. So it's definitely been good, and it gives structure. And again, for someone with my personality type, I don't like sitting in the meetings or anything like that. But for you, it's like, I'm really glad you do it, because I think it's important.
Well, I think too, like one of our, like definitely yours, but mine too, is the culture aspect. We want to make sure that we have a good team culture. And I think it was maybe lacking a little bit, just because, we were working from home more with the kids, and I think like we just weren't together as a team as much. So this is really nice because we do come together weekly as a team. And I know you've implemented your one-on-ones with the guys too. So it's just nice to actually be together and build that culture.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's when you have everything set up like that, it's a lot easier to where like you have things that you need to hit. And then if you're talking to employees and saying like, hey, we didn't get this, it's not like a personal attack, or it's like,
it's numbers, like the data speaks, right? And then, another thing that we've done too is really nail down our vision and our mission. Like we have a mission statement now, and we have core values, and we've made, big, nice signs and hung them in the office so that it's very transparent for the employees. And one of the things that they always say is you run your business on your core values and your mission, and you want to make sure that your vision is very clear to your employees, because then they can buy in and they'll help you get to where you want to go. So I think that also was really important and like a really big breakthrough with implementing EOS. So
yeah, I think vision's always a big one. When we had a third party come in and like interview our employees, and that was one thing, is they said they all knew kind of exactly where the company was going. And for me, right from the beginning, like it has to be big enough. And that's what I always tell people, like you have to have a big enough goal that people want to buy in. Like if we had moved here and said we're going to own 100 units, we wouldn't have any employees. And that's where, for me, the 10X rule, the book changed my perspective so much.
I still need to read that one too. Too many books on the shelf now.
But it's all about, you put a flag way out there, and then if, maybe everyone can buy it, there's room in there for that growth. And I think that's where EOS helps too, is kind of show people like, hey, here's the next step. And
well, I think too, like, you put that vision out there, and if your employees aren't buying in, then that's a telltale sign that they don't fit the culture, right? So that's also like a way to maneuver who's on your team and who you're working with.
Yeah, and talking to other business owners who've done it, like people, we wouldn't have this issue, I don't think, in our company, but there'll just be people that don't buy in, or they feel like, everyone else is growing and they're not, and they won't stay with the company. So you can kind of weed out people that way.
Brandon's stat there, like how many percentage of employees are there to like intentionally sabotage your business? Like that's kind of an alarming
I think
stat. I can't remember what it was.
78% of employees are actively disengaged in their business.
So they just go to work, hate their jobs, and go home.
Yeah. And some of that though is vision too. Like if you just were working somewhere and didn't have any path to grow, or like if you didn't know, and I think you have to get across to people too that it's not, because I think some people, if you work for a huge corporation, it's like, why would I benefit the company? Like, what would it help me to do?
Well, I mean, I worked for Esso for how many years, and there was just, I just hated it. Like, and it's a big company, and there was room for growth, but it's just, I don't know, wasn't my vibe for sure. And now looking back, like I don't think, and you definitely, just working for somebody else just would not appeal to me.
No, and I think it's hard to see in a company like that. Like again, if you do just an unreal job, like how much it'll have maybe a minimal effect on you, but and it might help the company a little bit, but you're probably not getting. And that's where I think having all that, the system in there where it's like, hey, here's where you can get, here's your personal growth, and
yeah, we have that mapped out pretty good too, like with our accountability chart. So the people can come in and see where their roles are and where they can go and grow and move in the company. I think that's important too.
Yeah. And we obviously have friends and family work with us, and I know I've heard mixed, like some companies like, oh, we'd never do that, and some are.
Well, I think there has to be again a bit of balance where at work you still have that respect, like you can be friendly, but we are the boss and they are employees, even though we're still friends and family. But then outside of work, I think you can still get along and do all that stuff. Not that you can't in work, but there has to be that balance of respect. And
yeah, well, and I think it goes along, like now we have a pretty cool work environment, like everyone gets along, and it's like it's fun and we can do stuff outside of work.
Oh, another thing we started implementing too is team team events, so like monthly team events. So I think that also has helped with like culture and just bringing the team together and having those times where you can just forget about work and just have fun together as a team. So it has been fun.
Maybe I'll let you guys win one time. Yeah. It's like the kids went with the kids.
We're really hoping Matt picks pickleball next.
Yeah, stuff like that I think goes a long ways, just getting outside of the workplace and doing fun stuff like that. So I know a while ago you'd made a vision board, and one of the things was a lady on stage. And that's why I kind of told you like the social media is a way to get there. You get kind of a bigger net out. And like in what would you see for 5 years from now? Would that be?
Well, to be honest, like I never really thought of myself as being out there like on stage, even on a podcast. Didn't think I'd be on a podcast. But I think that I do want to create some sort of impact for people. And like got back to that 75 hard, like when people see that and we've accomplished that and you're inspiring them to also be better and take their health seriously and, make these commitments. I don't know exactly what my goal is as an impact to people, but I know that I would like to create some sort of impact. And if not for, the public, maybe for my kids at home. Like, and one thing I heard the other day is that, I don't want to get to the end of this life and realize that I wasted it. So I just want to make sure that I didn't waste it, that I am creating impact, that I am influencing somebody to be better, maybe inspiring women to get more into real estate or inspiring couples to work together. Whether or not that's a good idea, I'm not sure, but maybe for some people it works. So yeah, I think that I would like to get more involved in even some women's groups, just get myself out there. Not very confident in being talking to people, or you're more the person that what's the word, networks. Yeah, you're the person that networks, and I think that if I can get more confident in this space with like communication and just being more out there, maybe I could also open up like a different network of people that we can tap into and making more friends and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I think it's always when you're doing, if it's social media or anything like that, it seems like maybe, I don't know if ego is the right word, but or like self-serving. But I always thought when I started, like, imagine if like Grant never did, if he never wrote a book or he never had a conference, or like our life would be totally different. And you can have an impact on people kind of without knowing. So yeah, maybe you'll inspire people to start a company with their spouse, and then we can invest in a divorce lawyer firm on the side.
It's not that bad. It's not all bad.
No, it's not bad. For us, it's not. I don't think it would work for a lot of people. I think you have to have two totally different personalities and be able to work together, and different skill sets is the big thing. Like if we both had, it wouldn't work at all.
Well, and like we said too, like the alignment and the same goals and vision for where you want to go. That's super important. And I think that's also really important in business as well. So and in marriage, like if you're not on the same page, like probably you're not meant to be together. So I don't know.
Well, and like just values, I think makes a big difference. Like, I don't remember the exact stat, but they said like people would always assume something like an arranged marriage wouldn't last because it's like you don't know the person at all. But that's just based on like you guys have the same family values, and the rate of divorce in arranged marriages is like it's 10-1 for other ones. Like it's like 90% they stay together. And so I think, yeah, the values and just aligning goes a long ways. So anyway, we will wrap it up. You do have a social media now if people want to look you up.
Yes, I do. Kelsa Unruh at Instagram and on Facebook. So yeah, got that going. So yeah. So for anybody who's not in Edmonton area and want to come say hi to us, we're going to the multifamily conference in Toronto. We'll have a booth set up there. So come say hi.
Yeah, a couple of people have reached out already. I think it'll be fun. It'll be able to meet some of the people from Ontario, so it should be a good time. So like always, if you guys can, like and subscribe. It goes a long ways. We always put the video episode up on YouTube if you want to watch the video. I'm pretty active on Instagram. It's always going to be me that messages back. It's at Shane Unruh. So if you want to send me a message or ask questions, feel free to do it there. Thanks for this week.